Hello, good evening everybody, and welcome to Surrey Heath Borough Council Planning Applications Committee. My name is Councillor Richard Wilson. I'll be chairing just for this one meeting in the absence of the usual chair. So just a quick safety notice to start with. There's no fire drill, so if the fire alarm goes off, we'll evacuate the building using the stairs, not the lift. If we can't get to the stairs, we'll use the emergency exits in the chamber. And if you've got reduced mobility and need some assistance, can you speak to the Democratic Services Officer? And we'll assemble in the car park to make sure everyone's got out. And before we start the agenda, I'll just introduce for any watching members of the public for who everybody is here. So sitting alongside me to my left and my right are the Council's officers from the Planning, Legal and Democratic Services departments, and they're here to advise during the meeting. Across the chamber from me and to my left are the councillors who are sitting on the committee this evening, and we'll be making the decision later on. So on that note, item 1 on the agenda, apologies for absence. Do we have any?
Thank you, Chair. We've had apologies from Councillors Mary Glowett, David O'Mahony, Victoria Wheeler and Helen Whitcroft. And substitutes tonight are Councillor Pat Tedder, Councillor Cliff Betton and Councillor Sean MacDonald.
Thank you. Moving on to item 2 then, minutes from the previous meeting. This is the minutes for the 21st of August 2025. Is the committee happy for me to accept them and sign the minutes? Thank you. Item 3 on the agenda is to invite members of the committee to declare any disclosable pecuniary and non-pecuniary interests. That's apart from we're all members of Surrey Heath Borough Council, and the one application we're dealing with today is being applied for on behalf of the council. So does anyone have any other disclosable interests? Not seeing any hands. Okay, nothing else. So we'll move on to item 4, which is the one planning application today. It's the refuse disposal compound in Swift Lane, Bagshot. So I'll hand over to the case officer.
Lovely, thank you, Chair. So the proposal is for a change of use from sui generis to a Class BA open storage for HGVs and coach storage. Please take note of the update sheet as I go through the presentation. So the application site is located to the north of Swift Lane, which is accessed via the A322. To the east of the site is a Gypsy and Traveller site, south is an MOT service centre, and the north and west are open fields. The site is designated as a waste management site within the Minerals and Waste Sites Surrey Waste Local Plan. The site is also located within the Green Belt. So here's a street scene view of the site back in July 2018. So this is when it was operating as a household recycling centre. And then these are a couple of images of the site a few months ago where the site is now vacant. So the proposal would be for open storage for HGVs and coaches. The proposal would not result in any operational development on the site. The site would use the existing access and this would remain unchanged. As part of the submitted information, the transport note provided details of tracking diagrams to set out that the maximum number of vehicles the site could contain would be 7. Surrey County Council Minerals and Waste Planning Department have reviewed the application and have raised no objection to the loss of the waste management facility. Therefore, in principle, the change of use is considered acceptable. The proposal would be assessed under paragraph 154G of the MPPF. There is no operational development and any parked vehicles may be seen, but the site previously hosted a waste management activities, which also would have a visual impact. Given this context, any visual effect on the Greenbelt is considered minor. The proposal does not expand the site or spread development. Overall, the spatial impact remains neutral. The proposal would therefore not result in substantial harm to the openness of the Greenbelt and so would not be inappropriate development, complying with paragraph 154G of the MPPF. Due to the site's history compared to the previous use, the proposal would not result in additional harm to the character of the area or result in any unacceptable loss of outlook or light or privacy. The development would not The proposed development would not result in an intensification of trips generated to the site, nor would it result in any adverse safety implications to the highway network. County Highways Authority have raised no objection to the proposal. Environmental Health have assessed the application and raised no concerns in respect to noise and disturbance or light pollution. The technical drawings show that 7 HGV vehicles could be accommodated on the site. The proposal is therefore recommended for approval subject to the conditions set out in the report and the update sheet.
Thank you very much. Now, there are no public speakers for this item. Are there any councillors present who are not members or sitting on the committee tonight who would like to speak? I'm thinking virtually, I'm not seeing anyone, or possibly one. If anyone would like to speak, now is the time. Okay, we're not having any requests for that. So we'll move on to the committee and have the debate on the item. Any comments and questions, members? Councillor MacDonald.
Oh, wrong Sean, found the right Sean. Thank you, Chair. Just a quick one. I did go looking for those technical drawings because they were mentioned in the pack, but I didn't see it in the pack. Is it possible we could just have them back up on the screen, given that that's new information for the members? Thank you.
Okay, has everyone digested that? Any more comments? Councillor Betty.
Sorry about that. I'm a little confused by the application in that it is someone from the council that is making it. There hasn't been any indication that storage of HGVs is needed. So the question is, why are we doing this application ourselves? And yet there is a known need for additional traveller and circus people sites. Why are we looking at changing the use to storage of vehicles when we could be looking at, because this is land that we own, is it not? It was operated by Surrey County Council. They decided to close it. So why are we looking at storing a few trucks that may or may not want to be stored there when we could be looking at development of a site for travellers, where we know there is a need?
Sure, question understood. Would one of the officers like to reply?
So while we're the applicant, from my understanding, is the site will be, we've leased the site to someone else, and that is their proposed use that they're looking to operate from. From the Gypsy and Traveller point of view, the site isn't suitable. One of the reasons is the site is located within the flood zone, and Kieran might be able to identify the other reasons why it's not.
Yes, I can help clarify that point. So on the other side of the site, there is an allocation for another additional 5 pitches as part of the Surrey Heath local plan. Generally, on a Gypsy and Traveller site, you would look to provide 15, which is what's already on site. We have had to look to increase the density in the sense of how many pitches are provided because of that. But 20, we are really reaching the upper limit of what is acceptable on a single site. So I think that would be partly the reasoning. But that's not to say we couldn't consider it in the future. But I think that's probably the answer in terms of G&T.
Do you think contamination on the site is a factor for using it for residential purposes? Absolutely.
Yes, that would definitely be a factor. It would be fair to say, because of the use at the time, it wasn't considered as part of the local plan in terms of the sites available for Gypsy and Travel provision. So we wouldn't have done the detailed assessments in that context, but I think there's high likelihood there would be issues, including flood risk. I know the Environment Agency have commented on the site, so if we were looking for that use, that would also be an issue.
I just want to answer the other part of your question, Councillor Betton, about the potential demand or need for parking spaces for HGVs and coaches. Can anyone comment on that?
That's obviously what the site can take, and that's what's been identified. They couldn't have more than that on the site. Obviously, the conditions and the consideration as to what this site can accommodate is being considered by the County Highways Authority as well. And that's the maximum. Obviously, there are some quite detailed conditions down there where we'd have the details, for example, condition 3 on page 16. We'd have the details of the type of vehicles which would be on site and how that would operate in practice. But, I think there's enough safeguards in there in the future to understand that this site can accommodate 7 and no more.
Thank you. Councillor Bethan, you want to come back?
I'm not, that is not my concern about, whether the site is appropriate in terms of numbers of lorries. Why is it for lorries and not people? You mentioned that the risk of flooding. Why does that not apply to the site 5 paces away?
So in terms of flood risk, at the time that this Gypsum Travel site is in the existing, came into place, the policy framework around flood risk would have been different. That is obviously a consideration, but there are areas of the site where flood risk is more of an issue than others. It is a particularly high risk use in a flood zone, so that is another consideration. And I understand that the Environment Agency have commented on the site for the use that we're looking at and haven't objected, but if we were looking for further residential use, there would be a number of considerations, but that's not the application that's in front of us.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Garrett.
Thank you, Chair. So, I've got the whistling mic. I'll speak quietly, that doesn't work for me usually. So, a few things. Firstly, it sounds like we have got someone that's interested, so there is a lease on this by sounds of things. So, but we're not committing to whether that's coaches or HGVs. And I'm guessing because there was HGVs or there was big vehicles that came in and out on a regular basis anyway, that's not going to be an issue as far as traffic goes. That's my first question. Second one is reference the additional documents that came out today, condition 2 on that. It says if during development contamination not previously identified is found. Well, there is no development, and surely they would have read the papers. So I just want to drill down on that, because there is no development. We are not suggesting we develop, yet it mentions in condition 2 if during development. So I just want to drill down on that point. And my last point is this site. They're not going to build any more buildings for the staff to be used. I get that. What sort of state is the building that's already there? And can we put a condition in that they don't do anything to that building, i.e. they can't knock it down and then build something else? Because I'm guessing it's literally just an office where there's toilets, room for coffee, etc., and they don't need anything else other than that. I don't know what the state of that is, so just to get some clarification on what the state of that is and that it can't be done with anything else. Thank you.
Yeah, officers.
So in terms of that condition about if there isn't any development, I accept what you're saying, but it's more of a standard protocol to put that on there, that if, even if they're on the site and they see contamination, then they could report it. So that's why it's down there. In relation to the existing building on site, it would be unreasonable to attach a condition of that nature, because if they were to knock it down and rebuild it, they would require planning permission in any event. So if they were to do that, they'd need to come back in anyway.
Yeah, please.
Totally get that, but I'm pretty sure in your splurb and when I read this, it said they are not going to do anything to the building. So, assuming that they are going to follow out on the fact that they say they're not going to do anything to that building, surely we can put a condition on that says they can't do anything to that building. Because if we don't do that condition, is there a danger that they could knock the building down, having said they don't need to move it down, knock it down?
Well, I mean, the condition in some respects would be superfluous for what Melissa's already said. If they do works to it, they need permission, period. What we can do is put an informative down to make sure that we're covering that off and flagging it up to the applicant.
Probably the last time. So totally get all of that, fully understand that, but based on the fact there's probably contamination, and based on the fact that 5 yards away there's not a flood risk, although there is a flood risk, if they knock this down and there's a contamination, then surely they shouldn't be able to build on it anyway.
Does anyone want to reply to that? Was there anything specific you wanted from the officers there, Councillor Garrett?
Well, it's just a concern that we've seen a number of times where developers tried to get away with things. I know this is not a developer, but if we're saying they can't build on it because there could be contamination, then they surely won't be knocking it down. But if they did knock it down, would they be able to get planning permission for it?
So I guess the question is, if they knocked it down or built something else there, that would be a breach of planning and they would have to come and get another planning application for that, is that correct?
They would, but it doesn't mean they can't overcome the contamination issue. They would just need to go through the necessary steps, and that would be as part of the planning application process.
Okay, Councillor Garrett, you also asked, started your question about traffic. Did you want anything from the officers about the traffic situation?
I'm assuming that there won't be an increase because there was already a lot of traffic, but just to get a confirmation that that's the case.
Yeah, that's correct. Due to the existing use, anticipated there'd be a reduction in vehicle traffic movement, and the site already accommodated large HGVs to take the waste away from the site.
Thank you. I think Councillor MacDonald was first and then Councillor Tedder.
I keep trying to want to be Councillor Garrett there. Can I just go back to Councillor Betton's point, which is obviously a valid and appropriate one? Just want to check my understanding of what Mr. Bartlett said. I thought there was a number of pitches on this location, and somewhere in the local plan it said there could be a small addition to that. Is that correct? Is it 20 today and it will be something slightly different should the local plan be adopted? Can you just clarify?
So currently my understanding is there's 15 pitches, and the policy H9 of the local plan identifies an additional 5 pitches, and that's where the figure 20 comes from.
And just to clarify, those additional 5 pitches, can any planning officers remember where they physically were relative to this site that we're making a decision on today?
If you look at where the site in question is for today, it's essentially on the opposite side to the east. So it looks like there's a small plot, but it's a grey out bit of land with green around it. So it's in the top right-hand corner. Sorry, that's not the...
Is it that bit there?
Yes, slightly to the right.
Yeah, is that right?
It's just slightly to the right. Yeah, it's in that location. So that's Surrey Heath Borough ownership, and then when you go beyond that, it goes to a separate ownership where we've had enforcement issues in the past.
Thank you.
I think we'll go to Councillor Tedder.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm just wondering, we talk about storage, but what do we actually mean by storage? An hour, a day, a week? Because if you've got those in there and they happen to be coaches that run in and out all hours of the day and night, if they're recovery wagons, they could be in the same position. And if you've got people, if you've got those sort of movements, then how will that affect the traveller sites with regards to noise?
Thank you. Officers.
So at condition 13, we've restricted the hours of operation between Monday to Friday between 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. only. So the site wouldn't be able to operate outside of those hours. So those hours are considered to protect the residential properties.
Thank you. Does that answer the question? Councillor Noble.
Sorry. Just going back to that then, if we have coaches on that and they're doing school runs, they're not necessarily going to get back by 5 o'clock. So is that actually an enforceable condition? My concern is that, you know, we can say it's 9 to 5, but that's the reality of a coach company is they're operating 24/7. So
And they'll be leaving earlier than 8 o'clock.
Exactly.
Still runs as well.
At the moment, the end user is speculative, so if occupier wanted different hours to that, they'd be required to come back in and vary that condition if it wasn't suitable. And the hours condition would be enforceable by the enforcement team should they not stick to it.
Okay, thank you. Councillor MacDonald.
Last one from me, thank you. Chair. I noticed the comment around the 7, and thank you for the technical drawings. That was helpful for the geeks, transport geeks amongst us. HGVs and coaches. So, are we talking rigids or are we talking front ends and trailers? I think we are probably going to be okay with either, but I think if we're going to mention HGVs, we should just clarify that, whether we're talking truck and trailer or just rigids.
Condition 3, which has been requested for by the Highways Authority, says the development hereby approved shall not be first occupied unless and until a scheme specifying arrangements for parking, turning, storage and deliveries at the site to include the type of vehicles to be used and their hour of operation, and then the design and parking and storage areas, and also the dimensions and layout of the lorry parking areas. So in terms of the type of vehicles, it would be covered under that.
That would be clarified as one of the conditions with Surrey County Council, is that right? Or, that's perfect, yeah. I think in reality it's the same thing from our point of view, but thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any more questions and comments, members? Not seeing any more hands. So, committee, we've got an officer recommendation. Is there a proposer for that recommendation? That's Councillor David Whitcroft, and a seconder, Councillor Jonathan Quinn. Okay, so the proposal is to approve subject to the conditions as per the officer's recommendation. Can everyone in favour of the proposal please raise your hand and keep it raised?
That's unanimous.
Okay, thank you. You can lower your hands. The decision is unanimously approved that the application is approved subject to conditions. And that is the final item on the agenda this evening. So thank you everyone for attending, especially the substitutes, the many substitutes. The meeting is now over. Thank you. Good night.